Giles. Good afternoon.
Good morning,
Good
Paul.
morning.
Good morning, everybody. How are you doing, Paul? How's things?
How's tricks? Is that what you said? What does that mean?
How's life? What's going? Anything new?
Oh, interesting.
What's
British
going
euphemism for me. Um, no, nothing new. We got an FOMC day today. Is that right?
Yeah, this is right. And it's a good one because we've got the summary of economic projections today.
Oh, nice. I
So
took,
this is more interesting than the last Fed decision we had.
yeah, remember, was the last Fed the one we did with Season X? Was that a month ago?
I think, yeah, it was one we did live and it was a real snooze fest.
I was just looking at the price action this morning and it just is like, it has gone nowhere. I don't know if you've had a chance to see between like 55 and the 85, just chop, 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 chop. So we'll see what we get today. Might be a
Yeah,
day early, but
I think we're gonna get something today.
okay.
Um, just because once there'll be a lot of data that the Fed's going to communicate to us, and the one question that people want to know is how worried are the Fed about US growth? That's the big question.
Yeah.
And if they communicate that they're happy as Larry and it's all fine, then we could see some strong moves. We could see strong upside in equity markets.
Okay. Okay.
So
Sounds good. One to
yeah,
keep tuned on then.
yeah. Oh man, yeah, it's worth covering. I'm gonna get finally ready for it just before, but this is a good one. We'll have a little look today. Right. In one sense, it's very easy today because we've just got a different sea of worry that the market can focus on. It's either Russian-Ukraine crisis or it's the tariff trouble. And we've had some interesting headlines on tariffs that President Trump is planning new tariffs on millions. That was a headline that came out about 12, and that's why we had this sort of quick sell-off in equity market in the S&P 500. It was on that tariff headline. But
New tariffs on millions?
yeah, so what analysts aren't sure on is whether that's something different to the April the 2nd tariffs, whether that's kind of just a statement of what's already happening, or whether it's something a little bit extra. So that's a headline risk that we got today. And we've also got the fallout from Trump and Putin meeting. Did you see the headline that they were looking at maybe having a ice hockey match between Russia and the US?
I did see that. Yep.
Yeah, so the talk is on normalizing relationships between the two.
Okay.
Update via Axios is noting that the call Zelensky said he will have with Trump today on Wednesday to get details about his call with Putin. That call is planned for 10 a.m. Eastern Time, citing source with knowledge.
So that is in 1 hour's time. Zelensky and Trump are going to be talking. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any progress made from Trump speaking with Putin yesterday and now Zelensky today. So
Yeah.
there was the pause on strikes on energy infrastructure, but apparently that's already been broken by Russia and potentially by Ukraine. So that's already been broken once. So that doesn't bode particularly very well. So we're just going to have those kind of headlines in the background today, which is a constant kind of risk. And anything about tariffs, it's going to be sell first and then work out afterwards whether it's worth selling.
Yeah.
Then we got the Fed meeting later. And the thing to look at for the Fed, the big picture, is looking at this. Hang on, it'll be looking basically at the dot plot. And what market's going to be focused on is these projections here. And in particular, it's going to be this GDP projection. So if you look in December, the Fed was sort of a little bit more optimistic about GDP for this year, 2.1 versus 2.0 that they projected in September 2024. Now, you've probably seen a lot of headline focus on the Atlanta Fed GDP tracker, which has been showing a negative, I think it was last updated to negative 1.8. So if GDP suddenly goes into negative territory, that's obviously a major concern for the US. And that's what's been underpinning a lot of these stock market moves, the selling, that Trump's tariffs are going to be punitive to the US, right? So the question is, we've seen lots of soft data like business confidence, consumer confidence, the University of Michigan prints, PMIs, which are basically surveys of purchase managers, they've all been coming in softer, softer, softer. So what's unknown is that soft data, as it were, that's just an unnecessary worry, or is that soft data preceding some hard data that's about to start falling? So weakening jobs market, weakening GDP, etc., etc.
Yeah.
My hunch is it's a fear, because as we've looked here with the University of Michigan print, we saw that Democrat-Republican split was massive. So Republicans were like, things can only get better.
Yeah.
Democrats were like, this is the end of the world with their survey report. So it feels like a kind of a political guttural reaction to a new election, you know, when the party you want has got in, amazing, this is the new dawn. And when the party you didn't want to get in has got in, oh, this is the end of the world, I'm going to relocate to Switzerland, you know. So I think that's the kind of twin kind of feeling that's being reflected. And the fact that the hard data has held up so far is important. Now, in one sense, you can be right and still wrong about it. And if you remember that University of Michigan print, remember when it first came out, Paul, I said, look at that Democrat-Republican split on that inflation print, and the market completely ignored it and just sold off anyway.
Yeah.
Right? Then the second time we had the print, the market decided to say, okay, yeah, there's a Democrat-Republican split.
Yeah.
So you can be, the market can remain irrational longer than you can remain solvent. So you can be right about something and still wrong in the market. So we've got to bear that in mind. But for tonight, the way we can see how the Fed are feeling is what they say about GDP. Now, the projecting that the Fed are going to put this at 2.0, so they're going to go back to September's projection. But one way they could communicate we're not worried is by pushing this up to 2.2 or 2.3. That would be a big confidence boost to the market, that the Fed are not worried about a drop in GDP. One way they could communicate serious worries if they put this down to like 1.9, 1.8.
Yeah.
So this projection will become very important, and the market will be viewing that. Similarly, the unemployment rate isn't very important. Look, they said the labour market was expected to get stronger in December. So if they see GDP moving lower and unemployment moving higher, all of a sudden you see the problem, right? The Fed are seeing, the Fed communicate they see a problem. Now, in reality, how can they communicate certainty when they're facing the same uncertainty that everyone else is facing, which is what on earth is going to happen on April the 2nd with all these tariffs?
Yeah.
So that's the kind of conundrum we've got to try to get through. But everything should stay exactly that. This should stay the same. And then the focus will be on the GDP. So PCE should stay the same. Unemployment is expected to stay the same. The Fed rate is expected to stay the same, 3.9. But this is what will be on focus, GDP, because that will show how worried the Fed is or isn't. So that's basically what we're going to have for later. But, you know, for now, we've got the normal quiet before the storm. When markets are waiting for a big event like this, they're very reluctant to take a move, right? So as Paul said, look at this tiny little minuscule range we've got. Markets just waiting, and so it's going to be annoying, maybe frustrating trading conditions. So if we're looking for a trade, we're looking for small moves, right? We're taking 2 or 3 points, something like that. I was trying to buy off this level to start with because we had this value area high up through Europe. And although it was a small move, you notice like we had these sellers in Europe, Paul. I just missed this entry, but I was having an eye on it with those sellers getting trapped here as we pushed above the value area high from yesterday. So in other words, markets trying to go unbalanced. Remember that absorption we saw yesterday?
Yeah.
That sort of carried on throughout the session and sort of played out as we went through to the early morning. We pulled back, we found buyers at that same area again, similar kind of absorption going on. And then we've seen a similar kind of absorption up at that level there with the prices moving lower, but the delta still sort of pushing higher. It was made trickier by the fact that it came down on that negative headline and people aren't sure what it means with Trump saying he's going to put tariffs on millions. Is that the same as before, or was that brand new? You can't tell with Donald exactly. It could be a new
Right.
plan he's cooked up. So that's what's going on. Tariff worries, problems in Turkey as well, with Erdogan's main opposition being arrested. So that's been destabilizing in European morning session. And we've got the Russian-Ukraine crisis that's kind of bubbling on. Zelensky speaking with Trump in 45 minutes.
Yeah.
So what I'm expecting today is headline-driven spikes that are limited in nature, followed by quiet, dull trading, waiting for the Fed. So I'm expecting not a lot going on. Any moves to take will be looking for small, nimble moves.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's the outlook. In terms of what we've got with the Delta, you've got Delta steadily moving higher, even as price has been moving higher. So I'd say we had a slow trend until we had these headlines here that there's going to be tariffs on millions. Then we had a sell down to this value area high, and we found buyers off that level. And now it's really anyone's guess where we go from here. Do we carry on lower or do we carry on higher? We've got quite a lot of sellers who came in here as we retested those highs. So I said before, you've got this rhythm shift that's just come in. It sort of dip up, and is it down and back to test these lows 5664? Definitely something to potentially look for. If we go down through that 5675, I'll be very interested in trading that. A breakout of this level, and then looking for a run down to 5671, 5664. That's not unreasonable.
Yeah.
Looking on the hourly chart, you can see that inventory is positive. The value area low on the weekly chart, from the value area higher from last week, sits around that 5674 region. So I'm looking at good support around this in this region here, but also a great area if that breaks to then look for a potential shorts. But again, I'll be wary of dip buyers anytime we get down towards this area.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm looking at today. Is there anything major? The obviously important areas is these sellers here and these buyers here. Seeing those buyers get trapped would be important, and seeing these sellers get trapped would be important. So we're right in the middle of an important area. On the hourly chart, we've got this important area, the value area high, that we'll be looking for. I think that's, yeah, they're the main sort of important areas to look at as we get going.
Well, that's excellent. Yeah, it's one of those days where you have a big impending event. You have lots of headline risk, like you said.
Yeah.
I just don't even have a projection. It's just like keep it very tight today, and then maybe you get a big directional move if the FOMC surprises.
Yeah, and if it surprises, we'll get the move tomorrow and into Friday as well. So we don't need to panic and jump straight in. If it's a directional move, we'll get it for Thursday and for Friday, and we'll get a fresh move.
Yep.
So it's just probably being patient in these kind of market conditions.
Yep.
Let's have a look. Is it a breakout? Is it on volume? Yes, it's a breakout.
This is looking a little more like a breakout now.
Yeah, okay. So I'm going to enter along with that breaking above and on sufficient volume, and let's just see how that goes.
Don't want it to go back inside this range.
No. Well, I've closed the long and now I'm going short because it makes sense with those sellers trapping those potential breakout buyers. You can just see on the 1 minute, sellers trap the buyers, so the breakout has failed.
Yep. Wants to go back in the range.
Yeah, see if we go back into that range. Just gonna add a second short into that. Quite like that. All right, just taken that quick short, and now I'm looking to go back in long. So I've taken that off the table just as it came back in the range, and let's have another go at it. In fact, let me get my fills so you can see them. Just want to take a quick push down there. Nothing amazing. And now looking to go back long in line with these buyers trapping these sellers. And let's see how it goes. There's still that absorption going on. Right, I'm going to enter a long here because it's just taking a little bit too long to get down to my entry. Close that one, and let's see how we go from here. Just still see that absorption, that building.
Yep, they want better prices.
They want better prices. That's it. They've come on down. I've now entered a long. Right, we've had those breakout buys. They tried, they failed. We moved lower, and now we're going to have a stab at going higher. Let's see how we do. Right, I'm trailing my stop up now. I want to lock in as under this. Okay, I'm out now for a profit. It could be very choppy trading today, right? So that it could go up and down, up and down, up and down. Yeah. It's going to be small range, so I just want to take what I get as I get it.
In the edge of that range.
Just on the edge of that range. So, okay. Let's just go through the rundown. So it's been a roller coaster day. End of the day plus 350, and it's been a game of two halves. So the start of the session, March the 19th, went like this. So we had the US Open, and the first trade I went for was a breakout trade that was failed. So you can see pushing out the highs of the day. Was there some volume? Yes, it was reasonable volume, and went long. And at this point here, I saw, hang on, sellers trapped all the breakout buyers, get out. So closed longs for a $200 loss, and then initiated a couple of shorts, just playing them back down to this area. Then I took a long, because on the higher time frame, on the 5 minute and the 15, I think it was, there were some sellers trapped. So structurally, it made sense to go long. Took a long up to the standard deviation, just took profit, just expecting a very tight day because of the FOMC decision. Then it was at this point where I saw volume sellers, the second most amount of sellers for the day, trapping those buyers. So I thought to myself, okay, well, initially I was thinking, are we going to carry on higher? With those sellers trapping all those buyers, that was the end of that hope for that short period of time. Expecting capitulation, got it, took a short, down to that value area, took profit, lovely. Then later in the session, we had some absorption going on in the higher time frames. Now, I'm just gonna leave a little buy there in case I get it, because I want to buy that if we get all the way down there. Now here, what you can see is price was making higher highs, even as the delta was making lower lows. It's 101 absorption, textbook, right? So price moved up to the point of control where these trap buyers were, sold and took profit as we hit the value area, right? Perfect. Then price moved back up to that point of control, and I was looking to do the same. Okay, absorption still there. In hindsight, I should have focused on the higher time frames, right? Despite my guardian angel Najem pointing this out to me, I just ignored it because of the absorption. And you can see here that the buyers had trapped those sellers from support, right? And because of that, that would have been a great place to go long. I'm going short because of the absorption that I can see, and that slowly starts to fade as the trade goes against me. And I had two positions in, third position on the retracement up to these trap buyers up there, looking for a turnaround. And it was at this point here, I just couldn't hold any longer because it was clear the absorption had failed. And then as the absorption failed, you can see coming in on volume to the upside. That's where I was able to turn it around with 3 longs with a textbook breakout trade. You can see here, I knew all that absorption would take place. I knew people would be getting out. Breakout above the high of the day on volume, followed by another candle, breakout on volume. So entered 3 positions and took profit up against the standard deviation. Nothing spectacular, but just making sure we finish the session on a positive. So that is all for today, folks. So take care and see you later, folks. Have a very good session.